Well, this is depressing. Canadians are among the world's biggest users of antidepressants, with as much as 9% of the population on one depression fighting drug or another, according to a new study from the OECD. I don't know what that is. Consumption of antidepressants in Canada is the third highest among 23 developed countries surveyed by the organization, with 86 doses consumed daily per 1,000 people. Only Australia, 89 doses per 1,000 people, and Iceland, 106 doses per 1,000 people, ranked higher. So the only two countries that are higher for the developed countries, this is specifically, are Australia and Iceland. The study did not break out numbers for the United States, but data from the US Department of Health shows the number of Americans on antidepressants grew to 23.3 million by 2010 from 11.2 million in 1998. Okay. So it says here antidepressants use has soared in rich countries over the past decade, although prior data wasn't available for Canada. The OECD survey showed a 50% increase in antidepressant consumption in Iceland and a doubling of consumption in Australia since 2000. In some countries such as Czech Republic, consumption has quadrupled since 2000. In Iceland, 30% of women over the age of 65 are being treated with antidepressants, the OECD study noted. So this is an article from the Huffington Post. And pretty much goes on a little bit more. Well, so 9%, I'm talking specifically about Canada because that's where I'm currently residing at the moment, and only for 5 more months. And I honestly, I wanted to address Canada specifically, but because I knew about the statistic, 1 in 9, that's pretty alarming. That's 1 in 9 people, as I'm speaking right now, in this politically defined country that I live in, with the political boundaries called Canada. That's 1 in 9 people on antidepressants right now. They're prescribed antidepressants. Do you know how many more people have depression? If 9, let's say 10% for convenience, 1 in 10, let's say 10%, it's much higher. Let's say 10% of the population are on antidepressants. That means there is at least 50%, half the people are depressed, but only 20% of those, so 10% of the population, are on antidepressants. That's very alarming. And that's not difficult to see if you live in Canada. I know the study also said in Iceland, same thing, in Australia. It's not very difficult to see. When I started experimenting with psychedelics, they make you super empathic and super in touch with energies. I'd go out into society and I would feel the depression of everyone. I would feel it. I remember taking 5 grams going to the university area, because I lived with the after graduating, I still lived around the university area. And wow, I was there and I wanted to cry for everyone. I could only hold myself there for 30 minutes. I had to go into nature and cry because I felt the anxiety and the depression of everyone. Okay, that's not very difficult to see. It really isn't. If you live here, or if you live, I guess, in Australia now, in Iceland, there are several reasons for this. And I'm going to tell you reason number 1 from my perspective in Canada, and that doesn't apply to a country like Australia who has a higher depression rate, but it's definitely a factor. affecting Iceland just as much as Canada, which is the climate. The climate. I can tell you something right now. So probably if you've been watching my videos for the last 7 months, I've always been wearing long sleeve, drinking something hot, right? Well, I can tell you something right now. My skin is crying. It isn't screaming no more. It's crying, crying, crying. It's crying. It's in a crying phase for some sunshine. My skin has not had any direct contact with sunshine for 7 months. That's extremely unhealthy. And it isn't going to have any for a while. It's funny. I always post a little thing here, an accountability sheet for sun gazing. And I start off great. 2 days in a row, and then it gets cloudy for like 6 days, and then that whole operation is lost. Now you could continue it from there on, but you lose the momentum. That by the time you come back to gaze again, your eyes you gotta adjust all over again. Okay, really, like not only is there barely any sun for like 8 months of the year, but your skin ain't getting it, your body ain't getting it. I can tell you, my entire body's screaming. It wants to be naked. It wants to have its feet in the ground. Look, my soul is hanging around here saying, look at this asshole complaining. Okay? But the human in me, right? We're a spiritual being having a human experience. The human in me is frustrated with the coldness of it. That's why I'm moving to Thailand. That's why I booked a ticket, September 4th. Right? The human in me is just now 15 years imprisoned, enclosed, imprisoned indoors. Guys, I'm making this video, it's April 5th. Okay? March 31st was a snowstorm here in Ottawa. A snowstorm, not a legitimate snowstorm. You know what the temperature was like this morning? -6. I still had to get out in my Russian hat and in my gloves, and it's April. We're April 5th. Most of the world is smelling the roses. And in the tropics, they either have the dry season or the wet season. And that doesn't surprise me that Iceland is there also, number one. Probably all the Scandinavian countries are high up there as well. Because the cold, the extreme cold of countries like Canada, countries like Iceland, this isn't for a human being. Now a soul, it doesn't matter. For a soul, it doesn't give a shit. A soul is just like, I'm watching a movie and this is the movie. It's playing right now. It's cold as fuck. Go take cold showers. I take cold showers. I preach cold showers. I preach them to everyone. I take them because they're really beneficial, but it's one of those things in small doses good. Anything more, the cold is a stressor on the body. You give it 5-10 minutes of it and you're okay. Now, if you're like Tibetan monks who live in cold climates, still not as cold as Canada, by the way. You can check the weather for Tibet. It does not get near the same coldness. Lhasa. Nevertheless, those monks, they can melt sheets around them with their body heat in -20, -30 weather. That's advanced shit. I'm talking about the average human being like you and I. Okay? Our bodies are 37 degrees for a reason. We're tropical. This is the most optimal environment for a human being. Just like the ocean is the most optimal environment for a fish. The skies and the air are the most optimal environment for a bird. The tropics are the most optimal environment for a human. Can a human adapt outside of the tropics? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's called heating systems. That's called houses. It's called indoors, buildings. Absolutely. But I heard Terence McKenna say this and I cannot forget it because of how true it is. He said our adaptability has become our worst enemy. Meaning we're so good at adapting that we're not happy because we're so good at adapting. Most people are adapted to eating really shitty food and it's causing them all kinds of issues, but they're adapted to it now. They're just sleepwalking through life. Unfortunately, this adaptability mechanism of ours, it makes us just sleepwalk through life. And I wasn't aware and conscious of the relationship of human to the environment, a human being to her environment, until I started doing psychedelics. Before that, I wasn't aware. Most people are not aware of their relationship to the environment. Not getting sunlight, not having direct contact with your skin for 7-8 months at a time, it's disheartening for the human. Again, for the soul doesn't give a shit. Okay, soul's like, I'm watching, okay, asshole complaining, here we go, another asshole complaining. Not even judging, I'm just watching. The soul's just watching a movie, play itself. This movie of duality, darkness and light. And you live in a country like Canada, you're basically living in contrast all year round almost, with the exception of June, July, August. You're living in contrast in every way. You're living in contrast weather-wise. It's cold. But birds, they September, they start flying. Nobody wants to be here. It's you, a couple of squirrels every now and then, and that's it. That's it. All life just like screw you guys, I'm going south. Right? Everybody's like, screw you guys, I'm going south. Because what are you going to do here? It's cold. Right? Life is programmed for the duality of warmth and light. You could see this in life. This is why in warmer climates, in warmer areas, there's more fruits, vegetables, plant life, animal life. Okay? It's, yes, we live in a duality, but the way life is programmed, it's programmed for the duality of warmth and light. Plants, they see the sun, they grow towards the sun. It's just the way it is, folks. Okay? So, but humans with our controlling mechanisms, we say no. We're gonna come here, we're gonna inhabit these extremely cold, clearly not human-friendly environments. We're going to build cars with heating systems and houses and buildings with heating systems, and we'll do it. Yeah, it works. As far as you're surviving, I guess you're surviving. Canada has one of the highest life expectancies. What the hell does that tell you about anything, though? That you're living longer or your standards of living are better. I would rather live one day, okay, and I'm just like having fun. What I mean by having fun, I'm living life to the fullest. I'm gonna say it. I'm living with light and warmth, with that side of the duality. Okay, we talk about non-duality, but the truth of the matter, when it comes to your humanity is programmed in every way to gravitate towards the duality of light, warmth. Plain and simple. Okay? And I would rather live one day like that, in that duality, in the duality of light and warmth and good health. I mean, good health is associated with that part of the duality. Okay? Then live a very boring, mundane type existence. Where I'm surviving, I'm living longer, but this is pretty. It's devoid of life. It's devoid of warmth. It's devoid of warmth. Okay. Now you know that if something manifests at a macro, if a meta system is in a certain way, any subsystem, anything that falls underneath the system is going to manifest the same way, as above, so below. So if the climate you're living in is extremely cold, what do you think that's going to do to people? The people here are colder. They're polite. Okay, people are very polite and helpful. They'll help you. You go ask somebody on the streets, I need help, they'll help you. 9 out of 10 times, they'll give you the best help you could receive. But they're cold. No one's gonna invite you to their house, have a cup of tea. Maybe 1 in 10 people will do. Right? So it's a cold. People are cold. It's a cold society, and it makes sense. As above, so below. As above, so below. You see people who live in the tropics. They're warmer people. They tend to be. They are warmer people. They don't tend to be. They are warmer people. Warmer people to one another. It's not personal, it's just the way it is, as above, so below. That's the way the manifestation works, that's the way the system works. Okay, I'm not taking a jib at anyone here, it's just the way it is, it's not personal, it's business. Okay, it's just the way it is. Just the way it is. And you've always got to look at the bigger system here, because the bigger system is the one affecting everything. You know, you always want to zoom out. So when you zoom out, you see, oh, you know, it's an extremely cold environment. 8 out of 12 months. And then when I say, I'm not exaggerating, guys, it's April 5th and it's -6 outside. Okay, it's not an exaggeration. I'm not exaggerating. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow, but nice for us is like 10 degrees. That's considered really nice. Okay, but it makes sense. So the society is colder because of the climate. It only makes sense. I'm addressing the humanity in us here. The humanity, the soul doesn't care. The soul's outside of the duality. Okay, the soul, it doesn't matter to the soul. It's like, I'm just watching a movie. This is the movie. This is the way it is. I'm experiencing myself right now in a cold country. I'm complaining about it. It's just the soul is not even judging. It's just observing. But I like to incorporate my humanity, your humanity, in approaching how to live. Okay, that's one of the major factors in my decision to move to the tropics in Thailand. Thailand's a tropical country. So now Australia is higher than Canada. So, you know, Saeed, that doesn't make sense. Everything you just said doesn't make sense. Well, Iceland's number one. But Australia is warm, yet they have higher depression than Canada. Because the cold, the climate, the lack of sunlight, lack of interaction, direct physical interaction with the elements through grounding, walk, because it's cold as hell. It's still snow outside. Hasn't melted. Has not melted. Where do you want me to walk? On what grass do you want me to walk on? Okay? But when there's no direct contact, it's a huge factor. But Australia has higher depression rate than Canada. You know, if 1 in 9 people in Canada are antidepressants, Australia is higher. It's 1 in 10 almost. Okay, now you gotta keep in mind, that's are the people that went out of their way to get prescribed and got prescribed antidepressants. That means that the percentage of people actually depressed much, much higher, go up to 1 in 2 people. Again, not hard to see. You do psychedelics, you go into society, you're gonna be traumatized. You're going to be traumatized. Be careful, don't do that. That's why you do 7-7, go to nature. If you don't want to be traumatized. It's just I'm an asshole and I wanted to see what's up, what's good. I'm curious like that. I wanted to see what society is like. And I went out there and I could only be there for an hour because I felt that the suffering of the people. I had to go to nature and cry. I cried. I had to cry. You see? Not very difficult to see. At least 1 in 2 people are depressed, even in the summertime. So then the climate is not the only thing. It's just a factor. I wanted to bring it to your attention. It's just a factor that consider if you're living in an extremely cold place. I mean, in the United States, in many places in the north, just as cold as Canada, right? Consider that is for your humanity. From the part of you that is human, spiritual being having a human experience. You've got to address your human condition. Okay, Australia has higher depression. So Saeed, what's up? Can you explain that? Never said I could explain anything to you. I'm just bullshitting here. I'm just an asshole with a camera. Well, it all goes back to getting out of touch with nature. Just because you live in Australia and it's a warm climate doesn't mean anything. You still build cities and it's still capitalism, still consumerism. You know, I did a little survey here in my early stages of experimenting with psychedelics. I went around and started asking people on university campus, have you ever been barefoot outside in nature? And I think it was 9 out of 10 people or 8 out of 10 people said never. They never even would consider it. They were shocked at the sentiment that you would even take off your shoes and go walk around in nature. They were shocked at the sentiment. So yeah, you might live in Australia where it's pretty nice and warm and a good climate and there's beaches and everything. You're still plugged into the capitalist consumerist machine. Okay, completely out of touch with nature, completely out of touch with the elements, completely out of touch with the oneness of it all, yeah, you're gonna get depressed. Of course, you're gonna get depressed. Depression is just feelings of isolation, feelings of separation. You're gonna get depressed. So that's probably like more of an influential factor than the climate, than the cold. I know I ranted so much about it, but it's more of an influential, because if somebody, I'm not depressed here despite all my ranting about the cold and everything. I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. I do not remember the last time I was depressed. God bless. Okay, why would I be depressed? I'm a spiritual being. I'm eternal. I'm Brahman. Who cares? Even if it's cold, fab. Who cares? You know, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit if I die? Death is, it's just a cosmic joke, like Krishna told Arjuna. Yeah, you're so scared fighting your cousins. You don't want to fight them and kill them. Go and do your thing. Play your part in the cosmic play. Why are you taking death so seriously? You're Brahman. Death. Okay? No, because that comes from also you experiencing yourself as one with the universe, as Brahman, as the one consciousness animating all. So then that's the oneness. If you're in oneness, it doesn't matter if you're cold and hot and wherever. The real reason, the biggest issue. So the cold, being in a place that's extremely hostile to the human organism. Your body temperature says it alone. Your body temperature is 37 degrees. So you're trying to live in a country that gets minus 40 regularly in the winters. Yeah, that's hostile. But that's because what that ends up happening is, because it's so cold, you're no longer out in the nature, or you're always indoors, and then you feel like isolated. You see? So that's all a manifestation of the original sin. Sin means missing the mark, which is the separation from the oneness when we ate the apple. Okay, so that's that's what explains a country like Australia having a slightly higher depression rate than Canada. It's because it's built on the same foundations: consumerism and capitalism, rape, pillage, destroy the earth, go after your own goals, your own vision, and make more money, build your own business, build your own empire. You know, I was under that program. You know what? You want to know what I have? It's funny here. I have two folders here. One is called YouTube Empire, and the other one is just called YouTube. YouTube Empire is all my fitness videos, because when I started the fitness video, I wanted to build an empire. I was under the programming. It's me building, doing my thing, separate entity, right? Then the YouTube folders, when I started this channel and I started doing psychedelics and feeding more into the oneness, it's like, who gives a shit, dude? What empire? What are you talking about here? This is Maya, this is illusion. Like, whoa, who do you think you are? Who the hell do you think you are? Empire. You know who else built an empire? Alexander the Great. And where is he now? He's been long dead. Nobody gives a shit about Alexander the Great. Nobody's gonna give a shit about Said, probably within like a few years of him dying. So who gives a shit? Right? You see, that's the old program, right? The YouTube Empire. I was part of it. I've been here 15 years. Okay, separation, ego, individuality, like it's an illusion that you're an individual separate entity. My God, it's funny, it's hilarious. I did it. Who are you? What did you do? It's not my will, thy will, O Lord. So, in Western countries like Australia and Canada and America, because you'll see the depression rate's the same in America as in Canada, even in Florida and in those beautiful, luscious environments. Maybe a little bit less because of the climate, but nevertheless, you'll see people depressed all across the board, and you'll see it in huge numbers. In Western, consumerist, capitalist, individualistic, materialistic type places. Yeah, it's a separation, sense of separation. That's the biggest issue here. Hope you understand now what the rant about the cold and the extreme cold is about. It's because in extreme cold you're no longer in touch with the oneness of nature. That's the humanity. But then in a place like Australia, the same thing. Same depression rate, a little bit higher. Because again, because you're losing touch with the oneness, you're losing, these societies are anti-spiritual, period. They're anti-spiritual. That's why we call, we have a name for, we call it paranormal activities, parapsychology, you know, this is not normal, because what is normal in these societies is the material world. But in India, you could have a conversation with a street vendor about the yogi over in that village who can read minds and can manifest things, can bring things like automatically. Like if he wants an apple, he'll make an apple, he'll manifest an apple. You can have a conversation with a street vendor about that. And it'll be like a casual conversation. It wouldn't be called paranormal, because these different societies are more spirit oriented, spiritual oriented. Okay? And the more spiritual oriented you are, the more in oneness you are, because it's somebody who's oriented more into spirituality sees the oneness of it all, sees the reincarnation system, sees how it all works all as one, how it's beautifully, magnificently designed. You're in the oneness. The more you're in the oneness, the happier you are. Okay, that plain and simple, that's the rule. The more separate you feel, the more miserable, depressed, sad, anxious, fearful you are. The more you feel at one with your environment as a human being, with the people, with the animals, with the nature, with your environment, right, as a whole, the happier you are as a human. The happier you are as a human, the more there is room for your soul, your spirit, that is Brahman, that is just watching this movie, trying to do its thing, can breathe, right? It can breathe and can just be happy, right? That's the rule, folks. That's the rule. Whenever you see depression, whenever you feel depression in your life, then you're feeling separate. You're feeling, you've gotta see what you could do here to feel more at one with everything. So go out to nature, spend time in the sun. I can tell you, my skin is crying for the sun. Crying. 7 months now. I'm pale now. I'm pale. I was watching one of my videos in July now. I was like nice and tan and looked healthier, looked nicer, you know. I was. Truly, I was like always beaming with energy. And unfortunately here we only experience it for June, July, August. That's it. Even May now, like it still gets cold, still gets like 3 degrees at night, and there, you know, even May is like 15 degrees during the day. Yeah, I mean, you know, so 15 degrees is the coldest it's gonna get for me in Thailand. It does not get any colder, so it's gonna be interesting living there. So anyway, to go back to the main point here, which is, you know, again, the main point is not the climate and the extremity of the cold and the hostility of it. I want you to make sure that the main point you're getting out of here is oneness equals happiness and joy and love and ecstasy. Separation equals depression, sadness, misery. Okay? These in Western countries, the depression is so high because people are feeling isolated. They're feeling separate. Their individual sense of ego as a separate entity is continuously being reinforced with media, with Instagram, Facebook, advertisements, TV shows, the programming of the societies, the cultural programming, because, you know, a culture is simply but a program. And depression is going to continuously increase. Because, I mean, it is. I read you the article. It has been. It will continue to increase, unfortunately. Because I'll tell you what, I don't see any long-term change. I might be a bit of pessimistic here, a bit of a contrast to my earlier days, but I do think we live in a Kali Yuga. I do think we live in the age of darkness, and I'm not so optimistic, to be 100% honest. Now, the predicament is that the more optimistic we are in things, the more likely they are to turn out well. So then, knowing that that is a law in the universe, one can only be optimistic, right? One should only be optimistic, because it is gonna increase the likelihood of positive change. However, I just don't see it, because I've got a sister and she is adolescence, and I could see that whole generation, that whole new generation that is raised on social media, and I could see they have a lot of issues, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. They seem sweeter to me. Really, the kids, you know, the 10 to 15, they seem sweeter, more tolerant. But they're gonna have to deal with some serious health issues. They are dealing with some serious health issues, these children, unfortunately, because we keep feeding them this food and keep them glued to the technology, and they're having all kinds of social issues. It's unfortunate. It breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. I don't know. I guess we're at a tipping point right now. Things could go south. They could go good. They could go bad. They could go positive. They could go negative. I don't know. I guess I'm neutral. I'm neither pessimistic nor optimistic about the whole thing. I can tell you, save your own soul. Okay? You know, you watch all this video. You're probably a pretty conscious person. You found this channel. You're watching these rants, and you're probably a relatively conscious person. You know, just keep working on you. Keep being positive. Keep being happy. Keep being joyful. Okay? Put yourself in situations, circumstances that are conducive for joy. I recognize that for my body to be happy, I've got to go to the tropics. That's home for the human organism. The tropics is our home. Okay, the tropics is our home. That's where we came from, Africa. Humans, we immigrated out of Africa. Biggest mistake, should have just hang around there, stayed there. Okay, really, food is there, water is there, other life organisms are there. Sure, there might be lions chopping your head off every now and then, but you got your boys, you got your tribe. I was watching a video on I think the Hansa tribe, or I can't remember which tribe in Africa, and they actually took the lions' food from them. They did a little scare. They scared the lions away, and they took their food. Okay, so I mean, yeah, we probably should have never left Africa, because even us together, smart lions and whatnot. It's not like you were just a human by yourself walking around. No, you had your tribe. Anyway, it is what it is. What do you want me to do? Like cry over spilled milk and no, we should have never left Africa. It is what it is. That's the way the movie's playing right now. The movie's playing is that we left, and we're here to experience contrast, and I appreciate the contrast that I experienced here. If you want to experience contrast, come to a country like Canada, Iceland, something. You'll live in contrast the majority of the year, and so that'll help you grow spiritually in certain ways. I cannot take away, absolutely not, the amount of growth that I've had as a human being, as a soul, as a spirit here, because you've got to kind of turn inwards also into your spirit, because you see the sickness of the society. You see that it's a disease-stricken, illness-stricken society, and you say, oh boy, that's not good. And then nature isn't going to give you much consolation, because it's pretty harsh here. It's like, it's snowstorms and it's cloudy and you barely see the sun most of the year. Yeah, you're gonna have to turn inwards into your soul. And that's actually probably an environment such as Canada is probably a fast pass into spiritual growth. weirdly, you might say, but we established that it's an anti-spiritual environment, right? We've established that it's very materialistic, very feeding of the ego, of the sense of separate self. But because of all of that, you have to turn inwards so much, and I can't tell you how much I had to just turn inwards and just find something inside, because nothing was there. The society was sleepwalking through. They're sleepwalking. The country, the environment is so hostile to life that all the kinds of life they just move south for most of the year, and so I had to look for something inside, and so that could be very good. And I'm deeply appreciative of that. Oh my God, I'm so appreciative. 15 years here. By the time I leave, it'll be almost 16, I think. Because I'm leaving September. We landed here October 2004. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, 15 years. It'll be 15 years when I leave here. And I'm appreciative. I'm appreciative for everything. Politically, if you're a Canadian citizen, that comes with all its world privileges, political privileges. Unfortunately, we have all these political boundaries. It shouldn't be like that, but the truth of the matter is, politically, the Canadian passport, they can be the Canadian, a citizen of the political boundary known as Canada, is one of the most esteemed things politically. And more appreciative I could not be of that, and at the same time I could see the tragedy in that, because had I been a citizen of Syria right now, which I was when I first came here, I would be in all kinds of issues. I don't even know if I could go to would I be able to go to Thailand and do what I'll be doing there and do visa runs and everything as a Syrian citizen? Maybe. I think maybe. I don't know if I would be able, but it would be much more difficult to travel. And it's unfortunate, but it's truthfully, I'm privileged for that privilege, all the privileges that comes with being called a Canadian. And I also see the tragedy in that we have all these political boundaries, and we live in a Kali Yuga, guys. That should be pretty obvious. In the Sat Yuga, in the more enlightened days of humanity, we didn't have countries and political boundaries. The Sat Yuga, I'm talking about the Sat Yuga specifically here, long time ago, where everybody was enlightened. Imagine everybody was Jesus on the earth. That's pretty gnarly, isn't it? And that's why us hippies, we're idealistic, because we almost long for these days, because there was a golden age, and you read into Hindu cosmology, that's called the Sat Yuga, and the way it works is now we're in the age of darkness, but it just goes in cycles. So now we're going back, because there's 4 ages, so now we're slowly moving out of the Kali Yuga. Some say we are moving out of it, some say we're in the heart of it. We'll see. But eventually we'll have to move out of it and out into the Varpa Yuga, and then the Treta Yuga, and then the Sat Yuga, which is when everybody's enlightened. Okay? So what is the moral of the story here? Yeah, I think you get the meat and the butter of it. It's the sense of separation that causes us depression, sadness, and misery, the illusion of ego, the illusion of separation, the illusion of individuality, taking credit for things, and wanting to build empires and conquests and all that. That causes depression, anxiety, misery, and then oneness, unity, union, yoga. Yoga means union, right? Union with nature, union with your fellow human beings, with your fellow plant kingdom and animal kingdom. That brings happiness and joy, okay? As far as Saeed is concerned, I'm deeply appreciative of every experience I've had here. I'm deeply appreciative of the massive contrast that living here for 15 years consecutively has given me. And I will be extremely appreciative in the future as well. Because I can tell you something, ain't nobody's gonna be more ecstatic about the sun and about being able. I probably won't have a shirt there. I'll probably own like a few tank tops, but largely walk around shirtless with shorts and barefoot, and I will be extremely appreciative of that. More than the local people by 100%, because the local people hadn't experienced the contrast. To them, it's whatever. It's sunny. It's whatever. You know, they still like it. It still affects them in a good way. They call it the land of smiles, Thailand, right? You see this tendency in warmer places, but again, these places, these cultures are also based on oneness and as communal. They're communal. That's really the takeaway. But the contrast, such as the climate, is going to give me such incredible appreciation for sun, for a good climate. And no, I will not simply adapt to it. I will remember. 15 years, I will remember. And I will be every day, appreciative of the sun. Appreciative of just have my skin touch the air, touch the sun. The oneness, again, it's oneness. It's my skin, my body, the body that I'm in being at one with this environment. And it's because of the contrast that I experienced here. So everything's good ultimately. That's what's, that everything's perfect. It's perfect. And I want you to take that out of this video too, that everything is perfect. It's all perfect. All of it is perfect. Cold is perfect. The duality is perfect. Contrast is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Everything that I experienced here, every experience that I had is perfect. Whether I want to label it good, bad, positive, negative, it's perfect. Now that's the soul in me speaking. You see how the human says something, then the soul says something else. The soul doesn't care. Soul is outside of time and space, outside of the duality. It's just like playing a movie. All right. Thank you to all the Patreons for supporting this channel. You guys are amazing. You guys are awesome. The fact that you've shown support, you've watched the videos and you said, hey, I like this guy. I'm going to support him financially. Wow. And you guys saved me out of some trouble. I had some bills I needed to pay. I cashed out the Patreon. I saved for a couple months. Really, you guys saved me out of a situation there. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. If you'd like to support the growth of this channel and help me do this hopefully full time, then you could do so on Patreon. Okay, and that's about it, guys. Until next time, may the force be with you.